Audio Jungle.
Affects everyday lives and lifestyle, which have profound impact on the individual capacity of learning. And here we listen to their inspiring story, Kahani Unki Zubani. Today, I am privileged to welcome a very dynamic and influential guest for today's session, Wing Commander Lakshman Prasad Joshi, who is an electrical engineer from NIT Hamirpur, aeronautical AF from AFFTC, and an MBA, and a social entrepreneur and a philanthropist. What amazing personality you are, sir. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of IDYM Foundation.
So thank you for inviting me to this forum. And I have gone through the journeys. I've attended many sessions through YouTube, and I definitely want to say that I'm in no league with other distinguished guests who have come. But definitely, I'm honored to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
So we are honored to have you on this platform, sir. Thank you for accepting our invite. To brief you about, he is an electrical engineer from, and I just mentioned that NIT Hamirpur. He has been a business leader with 3 decades of experience in Indian Air Force, DRDO, and HCL technology. He has had appointment of commanding officer, director IT and projects, and head of planning in Air Force, and was associated with the prestigious projects like light combat aircraft and advanced light helicopters. He has also managed a school for differently abled children in the Air Force. So I can say that you are an educator from heart. In
Yes.
HCL technology, he was managing global diversity team in aerospace and automatic engineering services. He has worked and guided development of artificial intelligence applications and projects in the area of connected and autonomous car and tested automation. Oh, what a versatile profile, sir. Presently, he is a social head of program and technology with Lender Hand India and NGO working in the vocational education with CBSE and 24 states government in India. Wow. Sir, I could say that you have what an inclination you have from a defense to a corporate and now to a social sector. So it will be very interesting to hear your story, sir. In the present role, he is managing and supporting vocational education program in many states and building technology projects for large-scale implementation of EdTech internship and MIS projects focused on the government school. So you are dealing with a grassroots level, sir. And he has written many articles on social issues, which has been published in Economic Times. To mention a few, like transition to social sector, India needs tech policy, pedagogy design in edtech, managing corporate employee volunteering programs as sustainable business projects, and guide to transition to social sector. So your journey is really commendable, sir. And again, I welcome you, and we all are desperately waiting to listen to you with your journey. So, sir, to begin, I have been following you, and I know that you belong from a Garhwal, a small village of Garhwal. So, sir, how you just came up into this thing?
Okay, so thank you. So the journey obviously started from a small village in Uttarakhand state, and even recently when I had visited the village, so compared to what is available most of the places, because in hilly regions there are challenges of connectivity, there are challenges of resources. So even today also, the village where I started my first schooling, no, first 2 3 years of my schooling was very elementary, and even today you can't say that it has progressed much in that term of this thing. So the journey started from there, and probably that is one thing which keeps me rooted to where I belong to. The जो बोलते हैं, जो वहाँ की वादियाँ हैं, वहाँ की हवा है, और वहाँ की जो मासूमियत है, वो ऑलरेडी हमारे मेरे ब्लड में है. So that is what I always feel, that keeps you grounded. And the journey started from there, and then my father was in army, so I moved to different part of the country, studying in different places, and then did my engineering from NIT Hamirpur, and subsequently I joined Indian Air Force. With the Indian Air Force, quite a long tenure. And then when I was leaving Indian Air Force, I also was selected for DRDO, but I wanted to work in social sector. And at that time, I went to one of my seniors that I want to move out. So he said that, why don't you move to corporate for some time? Because the experience which you will gain in corporate world is going to be very different. Coming straight away from government service to uh, social sector may not give you a wholesome view. And that is what I decided. And then I moved to HCL Technologies, which is again a very wonderful inning. And then at some point in time, 2019, um, so all through this journey, there have been interesting phases. Maybe I'll cover it at a later point of time. And I was connected with social flaws starting in Air Force, as you have also mentioned, that I volunteered to manage to twice school for differently abled children. And then while I was in HCL also, I was a very active volunteer. I used to connect with many social organizations and give them advice in technology, processes, and strategy. And then I was feeling that urge, just because I was not satisfied with a couple of hours which I was putting. So I wanted to do full time. And moving from corporate to social sector, it's not easy because you are part of the ecosystem, you have family, you have children. So it took me some time to discuss with them, and thanks for their motivation and their go ahead. I moved to social sector, and now here for last 3 years, I work with an organization called Lend a Hand India. Lend a Hand India is doing an excellent work. I've been a pioneer in vocational education for almost now 16 years. And today we work with almost 24 states, and primarily focusing on vocational education as a part of school curriculum. So typically, when we use word vocational and skilling, people assume that it is course of 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. But our founders had a very clear vision that until unless you make it part of the school curriculum, the it is board approved, board certified. It will not be taken very seriously, and it will not give that kind of a knowledge which students want. And considering the kind of a demography we have, the kind of economic background, social background we have, that's the need of this thing. And all those visions and aspects of vocationalization has been validated by national education policy. National education policy extensively speaks about vocationalization of education, and many things are happening in last 1 or 2 years. We have seen a lot of things happening recently. There was something called national credit framework, which has been rolled out for public consumption and comments. So these are some of the transformational thing which is going to change our country in terms of making children and students skilled in terms of, yeah. So that's a brief. Yeah.
So I was just listening to your story that from a defense, then corporate, then social sector. One thing would just click me that what clicked you from a like corporate, which is full of like everything, materialistic world, and again coming back to the social sector. So what was one that spark which really guys leaving out everything? Like it might be a very difficult decision for you because we all know that what are these things required for the survival. So, but and because social sector is not a sector that you will get that lump sum amount of salary. So what one thing was there which really made you know I have to take this decision of at this time of my life?
So yeah, that was not an easy decision. I can say this. So one of my article, which I have written and which is one of the LinkedIn article also, I mentioned how to transition to social sector. In fact, many people come after this Economic Times article. Many people consult me also that what to do it, and I have a long checklist. And if you want to move it, you need to look at the checklist and go through it. So it's a difficult decision, but that is all. These are individual decisions. So it's not that I suddenly decided to work in social sector just like that. I think two defining things which I can talk about myself have been, one aspect has been technology. So from a very young age, I can recollect that when I was in 7th 8th class, I used to tinker around. I would repair some electrical devices. I would repair TVs of my neighbors or our own TV or many devices. So this has been learning and all through my colleges. So I've been very active hands-on person on a technology aspect. So that was one. And from very beginning, from my school days, from my college days, I have been connected to social causes directly or indirectly. Even in school, if there are students who are coming uh, from economic background where they cannot pay the fees, so we would like to mobilize student and figure out some way how to pay their let's say fees or mess fees, how to do that. So those are those spark and those things were already there. And even when I moved to my professional life, like I was in Air Force, so I used to volunteer for certain activities which are part of the social sector. And there twice I got an opportunity. So in fact, that's an interesting anecdote which I always keep telling, that I was commanding a unit, and at that time I had, as in Air Force, there's a concept called secondary duties. So I had one secondary duties, and I went to my station commander that I want to uh, take over the duty of. There's a school called Omid School, which is for differently able children. So he says, no, I want you to take, because this other duty is more important and it has got a lot of finances involved in it. So I want somebody who is very clean about the finances and all. But so I said, okay, I'll take both of them, which was a I mean, additional burden on me, because it can only spend this much amount of time, and I took it. And probably I think that was one major transformation, which while I was working at a periphery of the issues, that is where I realized that there is something very touching about what you need to do for the sector, and each of us have to contribute. And I think that kind of a triggered a lot of things. And I said, when I was leaving Air Force, I wanted to immediately jump into social sector, but then I was advised, why don't you? Because at that time I was selected for HCL, so they said, why don't you go into corporate sector? And even in HCL, I was part of there are many NGOs who work with HCL Foundation, so I used to actively participate in those activities. And then transition is obviously not an easy thing. You need to figure out a lot of things. You need to work out a lot of things. There are things, issues, and obviously there's always a comparison. First is a comparison, and when you are sitting in corporate in a senior position, people take you differently. When you are sitting in government in a very senior, as a senior officer, you are considered, and you're heard. When you come to an NGO, you are
Yes, yes.
suddenly are not somebody whom people would easily accept, even if you are speaking the same thing. So those have been learnings and journey, and I was kind of prepared for it because I was kind of connected for quite some time. So
I was about to ask you about that, from an authoritative position to a social sector where you are not that e- easily heard. You take so much pains to give your voices. So it has been very amazing, fascinating journey must be. But you must have faced so many problems too. And I think the way you were explaining your journey with very calmness, so you must have taken a pause and then you keep on going. So really commendable, sir. Uh, Moving ahead with my next question, and I would like to mention that people like you who have seen all the phases is a gem for the society. Seriously, sir, because working for the society is not everyone's cup of tea. It takes lots of courage to work for them. Now, sir, at this moment of your time, what changes you feel in around in reference to the youth?
so I think there is the country and as a word is going for a lot of transformation. In fact, last 3 years, if you look at, because COVID in one way has done a lot of acceleration of a lot of activities which were there. So youth are going through a lot of mindset change, a lot of aspirations are changing. So today, there are youngsters from top level colleges, top level universities. They are not going in a typical mindset that, okay, I want to get a job or I need to do this thing. There are students who finish and then we also get some of those students in social sector. They want to try out something and try even something which they know likely to fail. So I think that is what is very motivating and inspirational for people of our generation, no, who are always worried about that. Okay, we have to plan everything, we have to do everything. So that is, I think, the risk taking has improved a lot. So this is what one thing which I observe. And as we say, there is like having seen all aspect, no, Samaj Bajar Sarkar as they call it, no, so being part of all those things. So I see that part as a very important aspect. And then second thing which I look at is the technology. So technology is transforming life for everyone, no? Whether it is a social sector, whether it is corporates and all. So that is second thing which I look at, it that everything is linked to those things. And the third thing is, I think President Abdul Kalam also mentioned about dream. So people have dreams. They want to, in fact, I was yesterday, I was interacting with some of the interns of a government college who are doing internship. No? Internship is one program which we run for 11th and 12th class students. So these 12th class students, so there was one girl whom I was speaking. She has done internship in automobile. So when you do internship in automobile, you go to a garage nearby. So when she told her parents that I want to go for internship, they said, no, 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 we don't want to send you. It's not safe and all those things. Typically a child would have decided, okay, let's not do it because it's not a any way mandatory part at this point of time. But she tried persuading person to the extent that she went on a hunger strike. He says, I'll not eat anything if you don't let me go. And then when she was narrating what all she learned, so she explained to me how to change lubricating oil of a two-wheeler. And the confidence which the 11th class student, or now 12th class girl was telling me, I think most of us who drive two-wheeler and four-wheeler not
Doesn't know also about it.
Correct. So this is what I feel, that the aspirations are changing, the drive is there, which is very, very positive sign all across.
I think so. Today's learning is more holistic, engaging, and interesting. And like you mentioned, the example of the girl, the daring spirit. We all dream, but we need to dare about, and we need to be determined. Like she went on a hunger strike, really. So she was determined that she will do it only, and no other option should be there. So this kind of, if our present youth started having like short-term goal only, I won't say long-term, but short-term goals, and try to fulfill those goals, I think so the change can be seen, easily can be seen. And it is a time, it is an era of becoming a self-reliant. When we are living in an age of entrepreneurship, startups. So this professional vocational courses which you are talking about is, I think, going to make a bigger change in reference to the 11th and 12th students. So because they will go to the diploma, then they will go to engineering. So things will be more on a wider scale, can be seen better. We can say better. So now, sir, you are talking about the professional and the vocational goals. So how you go and contact, what are your areas of giving these information, or how, if somebody wants, like those who are listening to us, maybe knowing how to reach to you, sir, how to reach to your NGO.
So our NGO Lend a Hand India, I think Lend a Hand India. So I'm just spelling it out. People can search and see what is the
Yes.
work we are doing, and they can reach out. So as of now, what we are working primarily, almost 96% of our work is with the government system. And the reason why we work with the government is a huge system and is a great grassroots. I mean, there are schools where there's no connectivity, there are limited resources. So India as a system, it's a vast country. So once the transformation happens in government school, it automatically moves to other thing because the resources are limited there. So how it works is, I think there's a program called Samagra Shiksha program of Government of India. So vocationalization is one aspect of that where it works. So what we do as an organization is we do advocacy, we suggest how to go about the process, and we have a team who work in as a PMU in different states, and then try to what kind of labs to be set up, what is the process. So as a program management activities are done in large number of states and schools, and then also some of the activities which are at a lab at a school level also. And this year onwards, there is going to be a focus because national education policy has mandated that 50% of school are to be covered under vocational education, no? By 2027-28. So that's a target they have already set up. So now private schools will also start coming to the fold of vocational education. And the advantage with private school is that they have got reasonably better resources. So they can set up their own lab, they can hire teachers without bothering too much about all these things. And I just want to connect the dots here that while we think that vocational has got two components, one is your trade skill or professional skills, and the other is life skills. It's also about life skills. So we'll learn a lot of things. You learn about communicating. Now, this batch of interns whom we are talking to, they say the confidence now what we have is after doing this internship is very phenomenal. No? That will reflect in their rest of the learning also. So these are the two things. So you have a trade skill, you have life skills, but while we look at it from the point of employability, that many students who are coming from the background where they cannot maybe go for higher education, they would be able to do part-time and full-time job. But there is another aspect. Let us say if a student has done healthcare as a vocational subject from 9th to 12th class. Now, if you are moving to subject of biology, medicine, or no, you would be already have a jump start on this. And while your peers would have learn theoretical aspect of it, you would already know a lot of practical aspect of it. Similarly, if you have studied automotive, you studied IT, even if you are going for higher education, it is going to impact the uh, quality of study or quality of learning which you will have and which. So one of the challenge one of the bigger challenge of this whole system is that at times there are reports which say we produced educated but not employable workforce. So there is a disconnect between what is being taught in academics and what is required in the industry. So this part of skilling and vocational education tries to bridge that gap in terms of what is lacking in there. And there are a lot of students, we talk to them, already started working. Like some of them in 11th class already doing some part-time in their neighborhood. Some of them in 12th class already while studying and doing. In fact, there's an interesting again anecdote here, or it's not an anecdote, it's a real life story. So there was one girl who had done internship while COVID was on, and she did internship one of the NGOs, and she was asked to make a video, and she made a video of her kitchen garden, no, surrounding me, and it really was well taken by I think large number of people. So she was really excited, and as a result, she got commissioned to do few more videos and similar kind of an activity, digital activity by other organizations. Now, this girl was studying in interior Maharashtra in some government school. And then she went to her parents that you don't need to worry, I'll fund my own education. And today she is funding her own education. She's studying in engineering college in Nagpur. And she is doing this part-time work somewhere and just creating videos, nothing much. Most of it is digital, and working with 3-4 different organizations and supporting her own education on her own. So these are real transformation when you see and when you meet students.
And when it comes from a this kind of a young mind, I say that young mind, because we know, sir, that we all have that kind of 10%, and then 90% to happen when we start responding to it.
Correct.
We know we should, that kind of a spark is like the skill. We all have the skills, but the initiation is required. And the capacity to learn to do. I think 21st century talks about that only. Learn to do, learn to know. Learning is just not about rote learning, getting the marks. Learning is about developing oneself. Like you mentioned that life skills, communication, your empathic attitude. These are very important. So now life skills. If we are from an era where we used to learn moral science, but now, sir, don't you think that in today's time, these values like honesty, truth, empathy, they are on a declination. Like people doesn't value those things. And a person who is with that, this is my experience. I'm just mentioning this as a question. That is it same? Is it it has to be changed, or what as an educator we can do something for that?
So as a, I mean, see, on face of it, when we say this, that there is a decline in A, B, and C, no, this is a conversation when you talk to young mind. I think this is what it comes, and we assume that yes, it is there. But as a student of trends, so I follow trends. So I don't believe in like saying you look at a digital value, the single value, today value. You look at a trend. So there is a and there is a beautiful book by Steven Pinker's Enlightenment. If you some of you get an opportunity to look at it, so he has written about and he has analyzed articles of it is primarily word trend. So he has indicated that every life related activity, whether it is health, whether it is education, whether it is moral values and all, in last 70 years or 80 years or 100 years, the trends are there. It has improved. It has not gone down. The only thing which is happening is because of the media and all highlights and all, you get to hear only negative stories. So and it's and he's a Harvard professor, so it is not that he has indicated random things. He has picked up newspaper reports and factual data and tried to link it up. So coming to this question which you have asked in terms of moral, I think today children are very well exposed to a lot of things. Of course it has got its own negative connotation, but by and large they are aware of what is happening, and of course there's a role of parents and educators and teachers to guide and kind of nudge them in the little bit in the right direction. But I generally quote a very good story, or maybe the way you look at it. So if you go back in time and talk about 60s and 70s, at that time of time, now at that time, if you were not studying anything other than your school books, so you were considered no bigad gaya na, kharab ho gaya, the gone bad, or not I mean not following the whatever is expected trends. uh, and then if you move ahead in a decade or later on, then if you are studying and as well as maybe even studying other books, story books, okay, so then you were considered it became okay, because by that time trends was there that students or children were not even studying those books. Then came TV. Now if you are watching TV, then you were considered bad, no, you are really
Yes.
spoiled. Then came this mobile revolution, phone and all. So when you just go back in time and see what kind of stories were being told at that point of time, that if mobile comes, everybody will become corrupt, we will become hunchback, we'll do this, and then suddenly TV became normal thing. You should be watching TV, you should not
Yeah.
be all the time on the mobile. So now it is social media has come, WhatsApp has come. So I think if you look at from a trend point of view, context point of view, things are. And today if anybody's uh, children is they are studying or they are reading a storybook, a comic, people feel
Mm.
so proud, so happy about it. No, they will brag about it that my son is not working on a game or this thing, but they are studying it. So if you see, if you kind of compare it with the context time with history, so things are not so bad as they are projected by. And I always believe that the stories, there are good stories, there are a lot of things which are happening as a change. But yes, since there is a lot of information blasting happening all across, uh, our role as an educator, uh, in fact the inspiring panel which spoke about it, and ID, why I'm also trying to propagate the thought that we have to moderate, we have to nudge, we have to guide them in the right direction. But overall, I feel that there is only positive side to it. There would be negative. Anything is there, there will be always be some aspect, but that is manageable in my view at this point of time.
Yeah, so sorry, I was mute. So from your answer, I could make out that the most important is to acquire to know what we have to learn and how we have to learn, and make a good decision about it. This is and the this can be done by the educators, by the parents. If they come in, when they talk, they have a good discussion at home on different topic. So I think we can develop a good youth in today's time, sir. Uh, while I was mentioning about one of the books. So I came to know that you are a voracious reader. Now, sir, talking about your reading, sir, how reading can help uh, the students to develop their personality.
I think reading, see, the only differentiator between humans and other animals is what makes it is that there is a learnability. So the learnability quotient for human is very high, no? And how do you uh, communicate that learning, that wisdom which somebody has acquired? I think while there are means earlier when there were no uh, textbooks or any books were not there, it used to be communicated verbally. And as a result, very few people could communicate to me. So you had only small class of people who could actually gain that knowledge and learn from it. But now because of the books you have everything, lot of information is available, you want to read it. And I feel habit of reading, of course now there are digital devices you can read, and now Google is a universal source of knowledge for everything. But habit of reading always improves your learning and improves your capability to grasp more. In fact, when we say learning, I think one of the thing which we have to always look at it, and this is one based on my own personal learning, which I moved from a government organization which is very rigid, and a lot of things are taken care, and you have to behave in a particular way, and you have to conduct yourself in a way. And then for some period I was at DRDO also, then moving to corporate, now into social sector. So while there is learning, there is, for you to succeed, for you to be uh, progressive human being, there is some unlearning also. So you have to learn, you have to unlearn a lot of things. That's a phase of life. In technology we call an agile word. So word is agile, it will keep changing, so you have to learn something and then you have to unlearn. Like a lot of things I think which we studied, especially in engineering, if you look at a lot of software and all, you can't use it now. So learning, unlearning is more important. And I think what books and anything which you read, it gives you learning. It also points you what need to unlearn. So I think these are the two things which I always tell people, that learning and unlearning go hand in hand. And the best source of this is, I mean, I wish, or we all wish, that there is a live experience, somebody to tell you, but that is only limited amount of interaction which you can have with somebody. But the next best source from the realistic experience is the books. They are the source of knowledge.
Rightly said, sir. Learning, learn, relearn, unlearn. So that the cycle has to go on. And reading provides you with different intellectual mindset. Also, it imparts good values. It enhances, I think, the creativity. When you read, you come to know others' experiences, other way of dealing, other way of looking at life, whatever book we are fiction or non-fiction. Now, sir, now give me two books name which you will recommend to our youth. Two books which will really make a big difference to their life. Two books from your library.
So I have a lot of variety of books. So I mean, depending on which age group people are there. So I think one book which I would recommend is Dr. Kalam's book is there. No, Igniting
Okay.
Minds is one of the book which I recommend everybody to read. In fact, I would add one more book. You have asked for two. I'll give you three. So uh,
Okay.
for little more like mature readers, I think I mentioned about Stephen Pinker's Enlightenment Now.
Enlightenment.
That is the second book. And third is uh, a book by Firoz. So it is called Invisible Majority. That is
Okay.
on uh, uh, disability sector or PWDs on this thing. And the book is Invisible Majority. And I mean, it's a very beautiful book to read, for people to realize. So just quoting one something from, not that exactly the book, but the context. When we say we are able to do, so there is a statistic which says that 60% of world population is using specs, glasses, correct? We are using. Now I also wear glasses. Now if I were to remove my these glasses, I would not be able to function even 50% of my capacity, because I can't read. I can't. I mean, at least the bold text and all. Now, just because there is an assistive device, you have glasses were invented way back. So 60% of population is considered as able or as equal to everybody else. But if this was not there, where would we all be? So those are the dimension which they're trying to say that from a diversity perspective, where are we and what all we should do to include that all diverse
But
groups are included in the mainstream education, mainstream opportunity, and we need to consider that we are also on the same footing. Today or tomorrow, we are going to be in the same.
really, sir, the way you have explained that the we take out the specs, then again we are again a part of that particular category. So, but we differentiate that they are something different. We know that they are a part of our system, they are a part of the society, but they have been excluded every time. And this is a time when inclusion education plays a very important role. The schools, the upcoming schools should make students admitted to these. Then what are the measures should be taken for this particular category to break into the mainstream society as an educator? What could be the one step?
So one thing which I always, so I am a very big proponent of diversity. When we use a diversity, and diversity have different dimension. If you look at the global definition of diversity, there are around 11 to 12 elements. So gender diversity is one, veteran diversity is another. So PWD is one of the diversity category. So when we say we want workforce to be diverse, when we want education to be diverse, and it should be all inclusive, same, no, this is how ultimately it all ties up, not because you are trying to help in the sense that you're doing it, that's the secondary thing, but it is ultimately related to, in corporate world is called business outcome. So why do we want, like say, women as a part of the business with you? Because the perception, the input, the approach, the thing which they bring in. So there are studies which says that if you have a diverse workforce, like say gender specific, it's a study, so which says that your revenue growth is 19 to 20%. You will see revenue growth in that business unit. Same way, when you have workforce including persons with disability, then the kind of input which they can give, the kind of understanding which they bring into your business will be resulting into business outcomes. It is going to, so ultimately, if you look at a country level or if you look at a different level, so your education is going to be more valuable for the society. It is going to be, you learn more. So if you have an inclusive education, you learn a lot of things about the society, which otherwise, if you are in isolation, if you just go back maybe a couple of decades back, or maybe some a little more than that, schools used to be girls' school separate, boys' school separate. Now you suddenly learning separate, and then you work in a society. It was very difficult. Now you have co-ed schools. So it has changed the way education moves and the way society moves. So I think one thing which we need to look at, that please don't uh, sell diversity or include diversity just because you are trying to uplift or push somebody. That's the secondary thing. The primary thing is there is a business value. There is some substantial outcome which is going to be positive because of that. So everybody should look at from that point of view. If in a school you are making inclusive classroom, you have to see that everybody is going to learn more than because of that, not less.
Uh, I've been a part of one of the school which have this inclusive education, sir. But what I've noticed that the student who has been a part of that particular class, the other students are not accepting them, and it becomes very difficult for the special educators to handle those. Again, I think the values has to be taught to those students who are there, that they are the same as you just mentioned about the invisible majority example. So I think this kind of example should be discussed, should be told to our young mind, so that they will change their mindset. And today we are living in a global village. We should adopt a global mindset. Then a deeper appreciation for the value of diversity will help to build, I think, the inclusive communities. So that is very much required to have that appreciation, to have that empathetic understanding of that particular student, that it can happen to anyone. It's not one's fault. And when
Correct.
it is being taught at a very tender age, I think the things will be much better. We don't have to struggle for it, for these institutions, that no, you have to do it. It will be inbuilt in one personality also. That it is acceptance.
Correct. So any change always takes time. When almost 100 years back, when uh, Ford decided to include, so at that time factories and all used to be only male domain, no? Like only men
Yes.
are working factory, and it was, I mean, it was not even thought that women should be included there. When they said, okay, let women be part of the workforce in Ford, I think obviously there will be hiccups in the beginning and there will be different mindset and all, but today if you see there are some assembly lines which is 100% run by only women. So the change will take time, and as I said, inclusive education has its own. So any change, any diversity intervention is not easy from the implementation point of view. As well, it is not always that it is the easiest path. As well as cost wise, it may be more. You may have to invest
Mhm.
more on it. You
Yes.
have to invest in infrastructure, you have to invest in facilities, so that in long run it will pay return to you. So there are challenges in different models. So there are different models of inclusive education. There are pros and cons of it. You have to look at very contextualized thing. It may, something may work in one place, something may not work in place. So we have to keep evolving. This is why I say agile. You have to keep looking at it. How do you do it? Like even education system, there are different models. There are, yesterday I was talking to one parent. So the three of their children all have done homeschooling, and they're doing phenomenal well. There is no, they have not gone through the regular curriculum of things. So these are different models which we have to, as a society, as government, as parents, we have to figure out what is best, and it will take time. But my firm belief is that there would be minor hiccups, minor challenges, but any inclusive education is always beneficial for everybody. It is beneficial for those who may be at disadvantage at that particular point of time, because they learn to be part of the society. If you protect them in isolation, then they will not see the real world. And for the larger society, there might be some uh, student or some teacher who may not be able to cope up with that. But overall, you have better learning in terms of how the real world works.
Rightly said. We inhabit in a universe that is characterized by diversity only. So that diversity has to be embraced in a very proper way, and then we can see how the life would be. Sir, my last question for today's session. Thank you so much for your time you was giving to us. So, what your future goals?
So I don't think there's goal in that sense that okay, this is something to be achieved. I mean, whatever I'm doing, I would like to continue, and maybe I don't think that there's something very different you can do it. But there are two things which definitely where I feel one aspect which another I have another thing which I believe on in is that uh, the corporates and the society, there are a lot of causes which need support. So while we always think of support as financial support, somebody leaving their job and doing something, what we need look at is that the spirit of volunteering, no? Volunteerism. So there's something concept called corporate volunteering. So many corporate have the employees who actually go out and work in social sector or contribute some of their time to that. There are any, I think, in education sector, many educators go around and do this thing. So I think that is one thing which I feel that it needs a little more push. We need more people coming out and giving their time, whatever limited they can go, 1 hour in a week, 1 hour in a month, which is good enough, and trying to bridge a lot of gaps which are there in the part of the overall social setup we have it. So this is one thing which probably is one, and I hope that in next 10 years, 20 years, at least this the skilling system, the education system, the vocational part uh, is fully rolled out. It is all working there, and I think the outcomes which we see in the society of the children who are studying today or maybe coming in future would be very different than where we today. And we can proudly say that, like, there are many countries which we quote example like Germany, Korea, US and all, no? They have a very different way of education system where people come up to certain level, and there is not much discrimination for the kind of work you do. So we hope to see all that, and we are already seeing some of it. Hope to push it much more further.
Uh, so I think, sir, only a life live for others is a worthy life, and you mentioned the word, you need to volunteer. Volunteering can make a difference in others' life. And a simple act of kindness, no matter what else, can bring about a change. And change certainly will be with there, but it will take time. We need to have that kind of a temperament. We need to have patience for that. But we should not be disheartened if that something is not going at that time. It will come. The patience should be there. So thank you once again, and it was really inspiring journey which we have heard, and from I could make out that you have been a resilient personality. You have been taking your twists and turns in your own way. You know where you have to go, sir. So I wish you all the best for your future endeavors, sir. And it was pleasure being with you on this platform of IDYM. So we have come to the completion of a program, and with this, we'd like to end the program. Thank you once again. All my gratitude to you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting.